Hello everyone, and once again welcome to our 2020 predictions video series. This time is going to be a little bit different than it's been in the last years because we're actually beginning talking about something that wasn't present last year, namely Next Generation. And as always, when it comes to these type of discussions, together with me I have the great honor to introduce to you all Roger Space.
The great honor. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. How's everybody doing today? I'm excited to talk about the new gen.
We have something to talk about thanks to the Game Awards, because pretty much the only thing to talk about at the Game Awards was the reveal of the next generation of Xbox consoles. We already know about the PlayStation 5. We know that this next generation will be all about 8K. And we know that it will be a little bit more pricey than this generation. And it will also be much more PC-like, which we got a very good taste of during the Game Awards. And I wanted to actually bring up a little theory first before we move into the next-gen stuff.
Yeah, let's hear this. You said you had a theory after the Game Awards, and I was curious as to what that meant.
And that is Nintendo's absence from the Game Awards. Because, yes, Nintendo was present at the Game Awards, but they only received the awards. They didn't stand there, you didn't have Reggie or Jeff Keighley presenting any kind of new Nintendo first-party game reveals.
No, even Doug Bowser, when he showed up, I thoroughly expected him to announce something after Smash Bros. Won Best Fighting Game, but there was nothing.
Yeah, like everyone, I think, expected that, here comes DLC Pack 5. There's no other way that it's going to be Smash winning the best fighting game.
Yeah, it lined up perfectly. I mean, they had the Joker reveal last year. It just seemed to make sense because everybody knew that Smash was going to win best fighting game of the year. And then I think it just also lined up, too, with knowing that the final Fighter Pass 5 character is going to be in February. It just seemed to make sense, like, oh, of course they would announce it during this thing. We have that 2-month gap, and then boom, we get the character at the end of February.
And we also didn't have any Nintendo representatives handing out awards. That was another thing that I noticed during the Game Awards.
Yeah, because technically Reggie isn't with Nintendo anymore, so he just went as a friend of the show.
Exactly, and I think there's a very good reason for it, and that is that Nintendo, in advance of the Game Awards, probably maybe had plans of showing first-party games, but then they learned, as a part of the negotiations prior to the Game Awards, that Xbox is planning to, or Microsoft is planning to show off their next-gen system. And I think that scared away Nintendo from showing anything, and they decided at that moment, okay, from now on, we're just revealing or presenting new trailers for our own games in our own events. Nintendo Directs, E3, because we don't want to have anything to do with the next gen of systems, because 8K, how can we even compete with that?
I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I feel like Nintendo's always kind of done their own thing, and they've shown off stuff where there were other, new system upgrades, like with the PS4 Pro and stuff. Maybe not to the same extent, but I feel like, with some of the games that were shown, there were a lot of games that were shown at the Game Awards that weren't necessarily first-party Nintendo games, but they were games that were on, the Switch. So I don't necessarily think that's the case. I feel that they just wanted to save everything for January. I think, some of us really enjoyed the January Direct that we got this year. I personally really enjoyed it, but I think some people were left underwhelmed by a few things, and I think they just figured, well, you know what? Let's just save everything for the January Direct that we know is going to happen, and that's when we're probably going to get Fighter Pass 5 character. That's probably when we're going to get maybe new trailer updates for things like Breath of the Wild 2, or like the official reveal of Metroid Prime 4, more info on Bayonetta 3. There's a lot of stuff they could have shown here, but I understand sort of where you're coming from, where they didn't want to have that compared to the new systems, but I actually don't think that's what scared them away. I think they were probably just like, oh, we're going to save it for January. Out of the Game Awards this year. Again, I feel like there were some decent announcements, and I also kind of feel like I was a little underwhelmed by the Series X announcement. I think it looked cooler than a lot of people have been saying. I personally thought I liked the look of it. It just kind of looks like a little PC, but I like it. It's sleek. It's just this little black box. But on the whole, I feel like, yeah, even that trailer, I thought that was going to be something else. Like, they just recently announced they're going to be making a new BioShock game, so I thought, oh, maybe that was going to be the BioShock trailer, and then we saw the car, and I immediately was like, okay, is this just like a teaser for the new Xbox? And then we just got the announcement of the name, and that was pretty much it. So everything was kind of underwhelming this year.
And it's funny that, we already had the Xbox One X, but now with Xbox Series X we have the Triple X, so people are making funs about the Xbox X.
Right.
And it brings the question, because we know that Nintendo with the Switch went a completely different route than it seems that Microsoft and PlayStation is doing. They are all thinking power, power, and more power, while Nintendo is sticking more to, I would say, the life patterns of their consumers, because not everyone has the time to put this giant PC box, which I also illustrate very good with this little image that I sent you, showing what the next gen could be. A giant box and a fridge.
Yeah, that's about it.
So, how do you think Nintendo can really respond to this? Do you think that they really need to bring the Nintendo Switch Pro with, I don't know, Zelda later on next year?
No, I really don't think so. I feel like Switch has been such a big success for them that I kind of feel like they could just keep riding this train until the next one. And I do feel like moving forward, and I think we already have seen this, right, with the way that they set up for back, even when it was called NX, how they consolidated a lot of the developers and things like that. I feel like moving forward, Nintendo is really going to carve out that handheld space as their own, right? There's no more PSP, there's no more Vita, there's no Xbox handheld, there's nothing like that. So there's no other company doing what they're doing. Why would they even bother competing with these, these fridges, as you call them, when they could just create their own thing that ends up selling millions and millions of copies, right? I feel like we could get a Switch Pro, but I don't think they're really in a push to release a Switch Pro next year to compete with these systems. I feel if they're smart, what they could do is really just continue carving out this niche. They really haven't done a price drop yet for the regular Switch, so they could do a price drop for the regular Switch next year, maybe even a price drop for the Switch Lite, like a small price drop. Make that as their big holiday push, and they'll probably still come out on top. I mean, if you have these early adopters with these really expensive new systems, obviously the most hardcore of hardcore are going to want that, but I think if you just come out with the price drop next year and then do like a Switch Pro or something, the next year, because I don't even necessarily think Breath of the Wild 2 is going to come out at the end of next year anymore. I was pretty much gung-ho saying that's going to be the holiday 2020 game, but I really don't think that's going to be the case. I think that's going to be early 2021, and I could totally see them launching a Switch Pro with maybe like a 4K dock or something alongside that game. That would seem to make a lot of sense. But, I mean, beyond that, again, I really don't feel like there's a big push for them. I don't feel they really need to compete. I mean, they've got Pokemon, they've got Mario, they've got all these big family-friendly franchises. They're already going to be selling to the kids anyway.
Yeah, for me, I just feel like Nintendo is not going to be ready for 4K until the next generation, to be completely fair, because the technology for making a handheld hybrid system work with 4K is... the expenses are just beyond comparison. It's not just like putting a giant PC. No, you need to have these massively demanding components work within this limited amount of space that the Switch, after all, requires.
I believe, though, in the magic of Nintendo, where I feel like there is something that they can maybe add to the dock to then upscale things to 4K. Obviously, it can't natively be 4K based on, the system itself, but I don't really think they need to fully reiterate on the system before doing that. I think they could do something as simple as like a 4K dock and upscale things in the meantime before that next generation that we're gonna get in like 3-4 years. Honestly, though, I feel like the Switch is going to be around for a while now. I mean, even thinking about the games that we know are coming to the system already, things like Breath of the Wild 2, things like whatever the third game for Pokemon Sword and Shield is going to end up being, or a sequel game or whatever, we're probably going to get a remake of Diamond and Pearl. We've got Metroid Prime 4, most likely a Metroid Prime trilogy re-release. Probably another top-down Zelda game. I could see them maybe doing another remake, probably another like Mario Odyssey sequel too. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that are coming that, again, there's no rush. I mean, Animal Crossing hasn't even come out yet. Xenoblade Chronicles is getting a definitive edition. There's way too much stuff that they could create for the system, and I fully believe that rumored Fire Emblem Echoes that got canceled, that was originally on DS, they were going to do another remake game. I think that new remake game is probably going to be on the Switch, and we're also probably, considering how successful Three Houses was, and we haven't even gotten the DLC for Three Houses, we're also probably in the lifetime of the Switch going to get another full-fledged Fire Emblem game as well. So yeah, I mean, the Switch is in no rush to upgrade. I feel like they've got so many games to release and so many other franchises they could dip into that, they're making so much money and they have this giant install base. Why would they bother, jumping off that boat? I mean, the 3DS came out while the Wii was still a thing and lived throughout the entirety of the Wii U life cycle. And now they don't really have that split between the systems. They just have one system to focus on. So if all of their developers are focused on making this one system, I'd say the only thing that they're really that they might be concerned about is multi-platform games that'll be on PS5 and on Xbox Series S that'll come to Switch. But even then, I feel like there's such a great backlog of stuff that's on PS4 and Xbox One.
In many ways, that is a concern that is first showing up in 2021 and beyond.
And even then, just like what you're talking about too, even then, they're not worried about the 4K stuff until whatever the next system is anyway, presumably, or, you know, having it at least where it's something that's built into the system itself. So if that's the case, then just wait. I mean, look at how successful Switch was, having things like Skyrim and Witcher and Overwatch and all this stuff now coming to the Switch that, of course, they released 3-4 years earlier, but people weren't able to play them on a handheld. And now I think because Nintendo's got a handheld, if they've got, you know, this new system that comes out in 5-6 years or whatever, it breathes new life into all these games that are then coming now to PS5 and Xbox One.
I think that Nintendo's strategy, especially for next year, as you mentioned, is that, okay, these consoles are going to launch in, let's say October,
Sure.
November, so that they will be out before Black Friday.
Sure.
They're going to launch for $500, and then you have the Nintendo coming with their $50 price cut on the
Right.
Switch to $250. It's half the price.
Right.
That is a move that is going to make sure that the Switch is going to continue to sell, especially during the holiday season.
Especially because you know there's going to be some big game that comes out for the holiday, even if it's not Breath of the Wild 2, maybe a Diamond and Pearl remake, or maybe, you know, like Mario Odyssey 2, or a new Mario Kart if they wanted to do that. Even just like repackaging, doing like a bundle or something with Animal Crossing, because at that point, Animal Crossing is coming out in March, but that's obviously a huge seller for them. If they did like a $250 Animal Crossing bundle for the holidays, bro, like it's over.
Yeah, just look at this insane sales of Pokemon. Like, the Nintendo Switch just outsold Xbox One. I think we're gonna end this part very soon, but I think we should talk a little bit about PlayStation 5. Because they seem to have a little bit different approach than Xbox. Like, I'm not too afraid when it comes to the Xbox exclusives. Unless they come with Rareware full with, I don't know, a Perfect Dark that doesn't suck, a Banjo-Kazooie
Banjo-Redooey,
remaster.
as was rumored.
Yeah.
So many people were
Or
saying
Banjo-Free.
Banjo-Redooey. That would have been cute.
Another Conker game, or finally get a good Halo and Gears, and all of that. But PlayStation is a system, like the battle for next gen, or also the domination of the Switch depends a lot on PlayStation 5. Let's face it.
The interesting thing is that when, I forgot what executive said that, but one of the Sony executives mentioned that they're going to hopefully have their major exclusives on PC as well now. To me, I was like, why would you announce that? Because if Xbox's exclusives, we already know are all going to be on PC, and the PlayStation exclusives are all on PC, like, what's the point of owning a console if you have a strong computer now? Just have, like, a strong PC and a Switch and you're good to go. You can play whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like, it's again, I'm always going to own the consoles. I like having consoles, and I like, you know, the industry as a whole, so I obviously want to support it. But it is one of those things where it's like, okay, I got my Alienware computer that can run everything at max settings. Okay, maybe I have to wait a couple months to play Death Stranding if I, you know, want to play it at those super high settings, but I'll just wait a couple months. There's so many good games on Switch right now. It's like, I wanted to play Death Stranding when it first came out. I love Kojima, but I'm also like, okay, well, Death Stranding, the port's coming in summer of next year. We've got a front-loaded 2020 with all these games that I want to play. I'll just wait. And obviously this holiday, I was busy playing things like Luigi's Mansion and Pokemon and even catching up on my backlog. So that wasn't really something that I absolutely needed to go to. So even if the games are getting delayed by like a couple months or they're timed exclusives on consoles, I really don't mind waiting if it's going to be on PC if I already have a really strong computer.
I guess with one exception, Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Right, but even that, did you notice on the box? The box was updated for that to say timed exclusive until March 2021. So obviously it's going to come to PC and Xbox in March 2021. So it's one of those things that's like, again, I'm obviously going to play that. I've been waiting for that. I'm going to play that on my PS4. But even still, it's like, well, I might just wait till 2021 to play it. Or what that could even mean is that they're maybe going to bundle, you know, Final Fantasy VII Remake that we're getting on PS4, and then whatever the next version of the remake is, right, part 2, that maybe comes out at some point in like late 2021 or, you know, early 2022, and they bundle the two games together, and then I could play it on PS5. So.
Exactly, and that is also another feeling I have with all these spring games coming in 2020, like Cyberpunk 2077. That feels like a next-gen game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, look at all of that. This is a game you want to play on PC.
And I think all of those games, too, will eventually be ported for the launches of these systems. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing exclusivity for like the remastered best of versions of those games moving into next holiday, right? Like
yeah, The Last of Us Part 2, come on.
Exactly.
It's definitely coming to PlayStation 5.
Exactly.
Like I've said already, is that the price point is the only disadvantage that these systems have. They're a little bit pricier.
Yeah.
So for families, it's no doubt that the Switch is going to be the number one choice.
Yeah.
But for gamers, and I mean, well, the gamers that are really serious, they have a PC.
Right, and that's how I feel right now too. I've got my really strong Alienware. I'm just gonna play Halo when it comes out next year. I'm gonna play that on my PC. I'm gonna stream that off my PC. I know day one it's gonna be on PC, so why would I not play that on my PC? And if there's something on PS5 that's maybe gonna be a timed exclusive that really gets me to buy it that first holiday, maybe I'll go buy one. But where I'm standing right now, looking at next year, I'm probably not gonna buy a PS5 or a Series X that initial first launch week. I mean that genuinely. I don't think I'm gonna buy one unless maybe Zen Market wants to do a video or something and send me it that first month. But I mean, beyond that, there's no need. I don't need it. You know, I already have my PS4. I have a backlog of stuff to play on that. I got my computer. I got my Switch. There's stuff to play.
Yeah, and also when you look at the system itself, like the controller of Xbox Series X, it's pretty much the same as on. Yeah, it looks like the D-pad is a little bit different, but other than that, it's the completely same controller.
Yeah, I made a joke. I made a joke on my Game Awards stream yesterday, where they were showing off Death Stranding, and people in my chat were asking, "Oh, when are you going to stream it? When are you going to play it?" I said, "Oh, I can't wait to play it when it comes to PC next year. That's probably the primary way that I'm going to play through that game." And they said, "Oh, what controller are you going to use?" And I said, "Oh, a Bluetooth Switch Pro controller is how I'm going to play through Death Stranding." So. It's funny. It's funny how everything's working out.
The only thing we need now are analog triggers for the Switch.
Yeah, and that's about it.
That's the only thing we need. And when it comes to PlayStation 5, I do think it will have a different design than the Xbox Series X. Because
I think so too.
PlayStation has always been a little bit more, what would I say, aesthetical when it comes to their systems. Sometimes a little bit too experimental when it came to PlayStation 3, but it's still much better than Stadia. That's for sure.
Sure. Apparently Stadia launched last week, and I just didn't know about it at all. So,
summing it up very quickly, it looks like Nintendo has a very good weapon to battle the two next-gen systems. One is called games, and the other is called a $50 price cut, because that means that it will be half the price compared to the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, which hasn't been the case up to this point, because the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One has been almost on the level of the Switch.
Yeah.
I think they've actually been on the level of the Switch when it comes to the price point. So when the gap once again becomes as massive as it will become with the next generation, I think that actually could be an advantage for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. The only thing that I could maybe see working against it is if they end up which they of course will, have some massive price drop for the PS4 and the Xbox One next year. An even bigger price drop that could maybe
those games will lose support.
Well, I guess you're right too. Yeah, I guess those games would. Yeah, see, Nintendo's fine, man. I feel like I feel like Nintendo's good, because you're totally right. Yeah, those games would lose support, and yeah, I don't know. It's strange.
Even without third-party support after 2021, I think the Switch is going to do fine.
We haven't really been in a situation like this, I think, ever, in terms of me covering the industry or you covering the industry. I feel like this is completely new territory, where you've got these two home consoles that are coming out that are pretty much just computers, and then you've got Nintendo. Obviously they have a console with the Switch, but I consider the Switch more like a hybrid than it is anything else. I don't consider it just like a baseline console. I mean, it is a hybrid, and so I see that as the one standalone handheld system, and that's pretty much it.
I think that's the perfect way to conclude part one, because we're talking about a brand new decade here. 2020 is going to mark for a whole new way of playing games, both when it comes to the requirement of buying a new 8K TV, which isn't cheap at all at the moment, and secondly, when it comes to how we play our games, because I think that the Switch in the long run might actually win, because we as consumers don't have as much time sitting 10-15 hours in front of our TVs. But if we're traveling on a bus, on a train, or on an intercontinental flight, we have that time.
Right.
Because there's nothing else to do.
Exactly.
And with that, we welcome everyone to watch part 2 when it goes up, and that is going to be about Nintendo Switch's first half of 2020, which we will be moving in right now.